Today I'm going to show you how to make these cute purses with sew-in purse frames. I've already cut out the main fabrics using the templates that you can download from our website. I'll drop the link below. So I've got this cute stamp print as the main fabric and then a stripe to go with it, which I'm using for the lining and the contrast. So I've cut out the main bodies, 2 gussets, and I'm just about to cut some fusible interfacing, which I'm using this wadding to give it a bit of body. And I'm going to fuse this, once I've cut it out, I'm going to fuse it to the outside fabric. These pattern pieces are slightly smaller than the main pattern pieces, so it won't be in the seam allowance. I'm just going to centre them inside the main pieces. This fusible fleece is perfect to give it a little bit of extra body without being too thick, and it's really easy to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and once I've cut these out, I'm going to iron them to my main fabric pieces, and I will be back in a second. Okay, I'm going to put my lining pieces to one side for now because I don't need those, and I'm just going to get my main fabric pieces which have the fusible fleece attached. So I've got the 2 body and 1 gusset. So taking 1 body, I'm going to line the gussets with the right sides facing. And if you look, this corner of the body and the corner of the gusset, I'm just going to start by matching that up and stick a pin in there. And I'm only really going to mark all the points with a pin. I'm not going to pin all the way around, just a pin in each point. So 1 there and 1 at the bottom corner. You're going to have to ease this into place because of the shaping. So just pop a pin in there, and you can do a lot of easing when you're actually on the sewing machine. And then match up this corner, and it's super simple. Having pinned that into place, it's now time to sew. And when you've got the fusible fleece on, it's actually quite easy because you've got the seam allowance kind of marked, but otherwise it's 5mm or 1/4 of an inch pretty much. So we're just going to start with the back stitch, take the pins out as we go, and you're going to sew to each corner, so each place that you popped a pin, and then with the needle in the down position, you get it into the corner, and you can just lift your foot and just rotate and adjust as you go. And you're just going to carry on sewing all the way around like this. This bottom corner is a little bit awkward, so just ease it in, try and make sure you've got no puckers or anything, and just keep going across. You might have to move the fabric from one side to the other just to stop it puckering. And then carry on round through to the other side, so needle down at the corners, lift the presser foot, rotate, and then back to the end and finish with a back stitch just like you started. So your finished side should look something like this. But we actually want to keep it that way round, and we're going to attach the other side now. So we've got the other side of the main body, and you're just going to pin this in exactly the same way as you did before. The only difference being is that the first side of the body is already attached. I'm just going to go and sew that, and I will be back in a second. Oh, there we go. So now I'm just going to trim some of the bulk from the corners just to help it sit better when it's turned through. I'm just going to literally slice across the corners without cutting the stitches is my aim here, and then just snip into the base where you've got all those seams really close together. Okay, and if you want to turn it the right way round, you can just double check that everything looks like what you want it to look like. So you should have a little pouch that looks something like this. Now we're going to do exactly the same with our lining. So get that pinned, right sides facing each other, starting at that first corner in exactly the same manner that you did before. Now I did say that this would be exactly the same, but actually we're going to leave a gap for turning in one side. So it's about 1.5 inches, and you want to be able to start the seam sewing a tiny little bit, leave the gap, and then carry on all the way around. So that's sewn, and you can see that we have a gap. And then you're going to put your other side on, and this one will be exactly the same as before, so you don't need to leave the gap in this side. So now we are all sewn, and I have my main fabric pouch and my lining fabric with the hole. I'm going to put these two pieces together to make one. So we're going to put the main fabric with the right side out into the lining, which is the wrong way out, so that the right sides of the fabrics match. And then you're going to pin at all the seams, matching them up. And then once you've pinned those seams, you can match up the top curves and pin around those as well. So you should now have two perfectly aligned pouches, and we're going to just sew all the way around the top. So just go slowly and keep aligning, and just keep that seam allowance as even as you can as you go all the way around. Once you've finished, just do little snips all the way around the top curve, just to ease that curve around and help it lie flat, and then into the V at each side. And then you can turn it through the right way, through that little hole you've left, being careful not to rip the stitches on either side. Once you're all the way through, you can sew up the hole that you're turned through, and then just push the lining back into the main pouch, and just make sure that the top curves especially are really well aligned on each side. Once you've done that, you need to find the center point of each top curve, and I just like to mark that with a pin, just to give myself an idea where it is. And then you need to go and grab your purse frame. You need to find the center point of your purse frame, and if you're not entirely sure where that center point is, you can just count the amount of holes and then find it. And then you want to open that up and align that center hole with where you marked the pin of the center of the pouch. And I like to just poke a pin right the way through at that point, just to hold it. And then I grab a couple of other pins just to hold it in a few more places as well. And then once I've done that, I go and grab my needle and thread. So I've tied a knot at the end of my thread. My thread's doubled because I want it nice and strong. And I'm just burying the end of that thread somewhere in the body of the purse, just to give it a little bit of an anchor. And then I am coming up through to the first point of the first hole of the purse frame. And I'm going to start off really simply, and I'm making sure that the pouch is pushed all the way up into the purse frame, so I'm catching it really securely. And then I'm just going to sew back and forth through each hole like a running stitch all the way around, and just keep going. It is a bit awkward holding on to everything, but just persevere, because once you've got a few stitches in, it gets easier. And once you get to the very end, then you're going to come back and sew through the holes that you missed before, because your running stitch leaves a gap, and you're just going to fill in all those gaps and come back to the other side. I'm doing this super fast, but you can get an idea of what I'm doing. And then just tie off your thread and do the other side, and there you are all done. One super cute little purse frame. And once you've made one, well, quite clearly you're going to make more, because they're very Moorish. I'd love to see what you make. Happy sewing!